With Bowling for Rhinos, it stemmed initially, it was one chapter that started an event called Bowling for Rhinos, and they kind of spearheaded, let's make this a national program. Let's get other chapters involved. Let's make this a bigger thing.
When they started raising money for the Rhino Fund with the Bowling for Rhinos, it was like, unheard of for zookeepers to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's been going on since 1990 and has raised over almost $9.2 million.
AAZK had been a voice for zookeepers for years, but for the first time they were going a step further and making a major difference for wildlife. Some of the first funds from the Bowling for Rhino fundraiser would go on to what is now the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, with proceeds being used to buy a light airplane to track poacher activity and trucks for animal transport. Today, thanks heavily to the help of the Bowling for Rhinos fundraiser, Lewa is thriving.
At Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, our iconic species is the black rhino. Currently, we got 268 rhinos. Just from the initial 13 rhinos that were introduced in 1983, we are now a major source of rhinos for Kenya, other conservancies, opening new sanctuaries and donating rhinos to restock where rhinos used to exist, and now they are not. And we are proud to ensure that we work with the government to restock other conservancies.
Chapters started doing the rainforest parking meter, and they were involved with buying property and keeping it as wild land. So the zoo directors started seeing how it was benefiting the zoos to be involved with the chapters, because the chapters were bringing also positive press for the zoos with the work that they were doing.
Recent AAZK President Paul Brandon Berger, like Ed and Rochelle, has seen major growth with the organization. He filled me in on the many ways AAZK is now involved in fighting for conservation and the protection of animal habitats.
Bowling for Rhinos, as great as it is, we always say rhinos are the flagship, but it spreads beyond that. We're built around protecting black rhinos and white rhinos, but subsequently through that protected a variety of the other species that they share their habitats with in Africa and Asia. We also have another nationwide program, which is Trees for You and Me, which is aimed at preventing climate change. Through that one, and with Bowling for Rhinos, in both cases, it's the local chapters will fundraise, and all of that money is kind of pulled together to support, these global conservation efforts. The really unique thing with AAZK, because we have all of these local chapters,
roller derby for rhinos!
Dining for rhinos!
Curling for rhinos!
Is every chapter and every individual within those chapters has the capacity to be an agent of change with those programs.
Well, if you want to give back and have fun at the same time, we got an event for you happening this Thursday, Bowling for Rhinos.
We'll be participating in an event called Bowling for Rhinos.
Zookeepers across the country came together to help save this incredible animal by creating Bowling for Rhinos.
Did you ever imagine when Bowling for Rhinos started in the 90s that it would become the mammoth fundraiser that it is today?
No, sir. As a matter of fact, I can remember I was in the room when the concept was brought forth to make this a national program. I will be perfectly honest with you, my first thought was, this will go for 5 years and then we'll figure something else out. Never did I think we would still be doing this very successfully 33 years later. These funds that we give have a different impact. It's primarily rhino protection, which is jobs. In Lewa, it affects the entire community. Some of these funds certainly go to rhino protection, but they're on a protected sanctuary. Poaching is not a huge issue there, though recently it has been because of economic climate. But we've built hospitals, we've built schools, we've funded women's programs. Somebody told me that there was like 2,000 jobs created on Lewa, everything from housekeeping and cook staff to doctors and vets, et cetera, for the community. By providing these jobs, we're ensuring the species in that area are protected because the entire community is a part of that process. We are ensuring they not only value wildlife, but they also benefit from protecting those animals and their habitats. So now you're talking about a huge impact.
Talking with Paul and Ed, I began to see just how far AAZK's impact has spread. From its original mission of empowering keepers, to ensuring the survival of the habitats the animals they care for call home. But like Rochelle had shown me, they knew words could only take me so far. If I was going to fully understand how AAZK has evolved, I needed to walk in the footsteps of those on the front lines, so they helped link me up with Michelle Elliott, an animal care specialist at Zoo Atlanta and the leader of my local AAZK chapter in Georgia. I've been invited by Michelle to shadow her for the day. While I'd love to get a look behind the scenes, for safety reasons, I'm filming from the public viewing area. It doesn't take long to see why. Today, she's taking care of Zoo Atlanta's giant pandas. At the time, Atlanta is one of the last places in the US where you can still see giant pandas. And prepping an enclosure for the twin sisters, Yahalun and Shilun, is no small task. Michelle's day starts with cleaning up from the night before and making sure there's plenty of bamboo to munch on for breakfast. For those who may be unfamiliar with their story, giant pandas first arrived at US zoos in the 1970s as part of a loan agreement with China. This approach, nicknamed panda diplomacy, became a key tool in easing tensions between China and the West, while also raising global awareness about panda conservation. Once Michelle is finished with our fuzzy friends, she's finally able to step outside the enclosure and walk me through her day.
So as a swing in the mammal department, my role is to move between several areas as needed. So some days I'm here with the giant pandas and red pandas. Other days I'm off with what we call our meat-eating carnivores, so lions, tigers, bears. Oh my, feel free to cut out that oh my.
Michelle informs me that she is one of approximately 70 animal care specialists working at Zoo Atlanta. It may sound like a fair bit of staff, but it's nothing when you realize they take care of more than 1,000 animals across the zoo each and every day.
So our day begins with us checking on the animals, giving them breakfast. Usually they've had access to an indoor and outdoor area overnight, so we'll bring them just into the indoor section while we clean the outdoors, set it up for the day with food and enrichment, and send them out into a public viewing area for the day. And then we get to clean all of the mess they made indoors, which usually is quite a bit. So we spend most of our morning working on that. We will squeeze in a training session or two if we can. And then in the afternoon, we are usually full with behind the scenes encounters with our animals or public talks about them. And then setting up for the evening, doing midday checks and dinner and starting it all over again.
For Michelle, Zoo Atlanta isn't just the place where she works. It's also the reason she got into animal care in the first place.
When I was 9 years old, I did an overnight program here at the zoo and fell in love with tigers. And then our instructor told us that tigers were endangered. So I was like, well, I'm 9, I'll save them. And after that, everything I could do was based toward zookeeping.
And that doesn't just include working for conservation throughout the workday. Even after a busy day where she shows me that she walked 24,000 steps, Michelle is still right back at it that evening, working again. This time, volunteering her free time for conservation.
Our chapter has long been involved in conservation fundraising. We currently raise around $5,000 to $10,000 for conservation each year, and we are hoping to increase that in the future.
Tonight, Michelle and a few of her fellow keepers are out at a nearby pizzeria, taking over the restaurant for their Pizza for Pachyderms fundraiser. Restaurant takeovers for conservation funds are a common occurrence for Michelle and the Zoo Atlanta animal care professionals. This is just one of many events yearly that they put on. Among their other events, a brewery takeover called Hops for Horns and a cocktail lounge takeover called Conservation Cocktails. I quickly learned from Michelle there's no short supply of alliteration-inspired puns when it comes to Georgia AAZK. One thing that is on short supply, straws, and most single-use plastics. Michelle makes it a point not to use them.
Zoo Atlanta is what inspired me to reduce my impact on the environment. I was challenged for a plastic-free July challenge a few years ago here, and that really sent me off to the races. So I now carry my own utensils everywhere, including straws.
For Michelle, removing plastics is just a small effort that makes a difference in the overall fight towards conservation. Much like their fundraiser, which manages to bring in nearly $10,000 for elephant support efforts. Georgia AAZK may be just one chapter, but like I'd seen with my grandfather's efforts in the past, here in the present, one small group was making all the difference.